Alright, so this is our old new window regulator. I replaced this thing 6 months ago. The plastic end here broke off that's supposed to sit in this hole. The wire slipped between the metal bracket and the plastic and wrapped itself around down here. So this one was jamming up, and I believe that one of the cables, I can't remember if I saw that or if I imagined it now, was off the pulley at one of these ends as well. But our new one came in. That's it over there. So I've got these three bolts to take out. It holds the motor to the assembly, and then I can swap the motor onto the new frame, and this will get returned under warranty, so that's a plus. So we'll get that done. We'll get this motor swapped out real quick, and then we'll get that in the car and we'll check it. I'm not sure if it was just cheap plastic or if it was broken and I didn't see that it was broke, but I mean, I might have rolled the window up and down a dozen times and it was free and moving, and then it was broken, so who knows. But let's go ahead and get this swapped out real quick. And oddly enough, it is a 1/2 inch and not metric. The metrics just don't fit either one. One's loose, one's tight. 1/2 inch is snug and right. So now that we got that sorted out, we'll go ahead and take those 3 bolts out real quick. Alright, so that took all of like 10 seconds, broke the motor free. The teeth on the motor itself are in good shape, so there's no damage to the motor unit, so we're good there. We're just gonna swap the old one for the new one. Alright, so the motor only goes on one way. These 2 bolts only fit in these 2 holes. If you don't have it in the right orientation, it's not going to line up. I've started these in. They're just sort of hand tight right now. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten them up, and then we'll get this installed in the car. Alright, so that took no time at all. Now we'll take it outside and get it installed. Alright, so now it's time to get this bad boy back into the car and make sure it works. And then we'll put the glass back in and get that all sorted out. So I need to hunt down a number 10 and the ratchet I was using yesterday. And we'll get this back on here real quick. Alright, so with a little fiddling and twisting, you can collapse that whole mechanism down. I find it easiest to put the 2 uppers in to hold the track. Once I get those in, I can line up the bottom 2 into the holes that are loose, and then I can go ahead and manipulate the motor. You gotta make sure you're on the right side of the track, and I'm not, so I need to lift this up a little bit. I need both hands to do that. But right here you can see the motor needs to be on the front side or it won't go in the holes. So we need to move that over a little bit. Alright, so a little twist in. I didn't have to take the track out, I just had to move the motor. Got the 3 nuts on the motor to hold that in. These are just in here hand tight as well. We'll get the bottom in, then we will lower the frame down. We'll run it, cycle it a couple times, make sure it's not catching on anything. And once we get it low enough, we will go ahead and loosen up the clamps that hold the window, and then we'll run it up and put everything where it needs to be. So on this car, they're actually in the right spot. They're at the top, but I don't know what size they are, and it's easier if it's down. All right, so regulator's in. The 3 bolts here are tight, the other 4 are still loose. I'm going to go ahead and run this up and down a few times, make sure we don't have any catching or binding. That sounds good, no clicking. Cool. Alright, so I'm going to figure out what size Torx that is, and then we will get those loose enough to put the window in and get the window back in and then double check it, make sure the alignment's good. So we'll leave the bottom two loose. We'll go ahead and tighten up the top two once I have the glass in, and then this way we can adjust the pitch of the glass to the body of the car. That way it seats good. And then if we have to make any adjustments on the how high it's sitting in the track, we can do that with the little keepers here, adjusters. There's one on the front and the back. Regretfully, see if I can get that to focus on there. There we go. I cannot read the number because it is under the silver part of the body. I think it might be a 6. It's hard to tell. I just dug it out of my drawers, so it's not on a rail. I couldn't tell you. And it's a Craftsman one, so the part number that's here doesn't really tell me much. Where's it at there? Let's see, 42664. So whatever the hell that means. All right, so we're gonna get that loosened up so we can get the glass back in the track. All right, so I have the glass back in. All right, there you go. Now you can see it. I've got the front screw snugged up against the glass so it won't slip out of the track. I'm going to snug up this back one, and then once I do that, I'm going to run it up and down. But right now it looks like we're a little low. You can see it's definitely at an angle. The rear is higher than the front, so we might need to make some adjustment on the screw there. So, but I want to make sure the glass is in there before I start running up and down. I don't want it to catch on anything and pop out. So let me go ahead and snug this back one down real quick, and then we will run it down and see what we get. Okay, so let's see here. I run it down already, but we'll go ahead and run it up, run it down. No funny noises, so that's a good thing. So it does seem like this side is low because it's hitting the stopper before the rear is. There's not a stopper on the rear side, so that'd be one thing to be aware of. So on the rear, I'm calling it the rear, calling that the front because that's closer to the front end and this is close to the rear. On the rear one, it is this little plastic stopper is just below this metal piece, and on this one it seems like it's just above. So let me make some adjustments on that. It is a very tiny, let's see what size this thing is, E7. That's the adjuster for that guy. So I got to bring the window up a little bit so I can get up underneath there. Alright, so I just closed the door, and once I close the door, this closes up pretty nice. So it actually makes the back high. So what I want to do, I don't know if I have enough or the correct extensions to get in there. This is probably going to be a bit long. So yeah, I will have to figure out how to get in there, maybe lower the back down a little bit, and then see how that closes. But because this is one of those cars with the convertible roof, the windows automatically drop, and they only go up so high when the window is open, so in case the motor fails and you close the door, you don't shatter your glass. Alright, it's getting closer, but we're still a little high in the rear, which is not allowing the front part to close all the way. It's kind of kicking an angle, so we're going to do a few more turns. And see where that gets us. Alright, so it seems like it's fairly close. I'm going to go ahead and loosen these two window clips back up and slide the window forward just a little bit. I feel like we're too far towards the rear, Once I get that done, then I will open and close the door a few more times. But it is going up underneath the track there, so that's good. And but it's still not feeling the gap up here, so it might be because I got the window too far back. So we'll get that sorted and figure it out. All right, so we got a good little gap around here. We still have a little bit of space. It looks like it's low here, so I'm going to bring the front edge up, but it looks like everything else is in good spot. I could probably bring the back edge down just a hair, but yeah, it fits in there nice, and now it sort of lines up back here with the edge of this track, so not too bad. So I'll go ahead and tighten down the glass. In this position, I had loosened up the two clamps and slid the glass forward. We'll get those tightened back down, and then we'll do some minor adjustments on the levelers and call it a day. So I find adjusting the window up and down until you have a little bit more space to get to these. You can get to them in there, but they're kind of a pain, so I do that, and then I use this hole here for the back one. So works pretty good. Gives yourself a little bit more room to work with. So yeah, we're going to bring the front up a couple more turns and maybe take the back down a turn just to get the glass to level out. Alright, okay, so got a pretty good even line across the top. I still have a bit of a gap here in the front. I'm not sure if I can close that up anymore, but at least it's working. The window drops a nice 1/4 inch or so, 1/2 inch when you hit the handle. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten up the two lower brackets and then start reassembling the door. All right, so got that up a little bit more. That's seated all the way across the top. I'm gonna say that's about as best as I can get it. I'm not a professional at this, but at least it looks square. I got about the same amount of gap back here as I do in the front. The only thing I need to double check is the angle in which the window is pushing out. It looks like it's pretty good. Doesn't look like when I close the door it doesn't kick the glass out, so we're gonna call that pretty decent. So next thing we're gonna do, start reassembling. All right, because we are going to be reassembling the airbag, we're going to go ahead and disconnect the ground strap and let the car sit for a few minutes so that we don't have it blow up in our face. All right, so negative terminal's been disconnected. We're gonna let that sit. While it's sitting, I'm gonna go ahead and gather up the airbag and the door panel and bring it on over so it's ready to go. And since I have the door panel out, I'm gonna go ahead and replace this one keeper. I've got a collection of them, so I'm gonna go get my parts thing full of them, and sure we still have enough of those left. So a while ago I bought one of these 680 piece 25 different size body panel push pin keepers. I think they was like 15 bucks, but they come in handy when you're doing this because you always find broken tabs. So going ahead and I'm going to dig through the thing and find one that is as close as possible to that one, its size and whatnot. And that way when I put it back together, the door panel should be nice and tight, no rattles. But in the meantime, while the car is discharging, I'm going to go ahead and grab me some tea. Alright, so it's been a few minutes. I went ahead and tightened up the lower bolts here, so there's the angle's nice and good. I'm going to go ahead and put the gray styrofoam foam, whatever the hell this stuff is, back over the door. Then I will also fish these wires through the holes, and then I'll get the airbag back in. It's, again, like I said, it's been sitting for a while. Doors have been open, hood's been open, so there shouldn't be any sort of charge on the system, so the airbag should not blow up in my face. Double check all your nuts before you put things back together, because it would really suck after a while having these fall out or come loose and then having your window not work again. So I've already double checked all that. So next on is the plastic cover thing. All right, so I have enough sticky stuff left on the door and the foam here to get it in place. I always try to line up my holes so that they be easier to push the panels back through. Get those. Where's this one? So sometimes because this stretches, you have a hard time, but yeah. So you get all those lined back up. Cable goes on the outside. Your airbag is the yellow one, so I'm going to get that back in there with the 4 screws. This is your door sensors for the inside latch, so when you pull the handle, the window drops. And I can't remember what the other one is. One of them I think is a light. So one's a sensor, one goes to the sensor for the door to let, and the other I think is just the light. That's what I seem to remember when I looked this up once before. So the next thing we're going to do is get the airbag back in, and then we were going to hunt down the correct push pin so that we can get that done, and put the door panel back on and button this side up. Okay, airbag's back in place. Bolts are all nice and snug. Next thing to do is plug our wire back in, and then we're going to get the door panel and get it lined up. And this will be the first thing we put on is the latch, because you have to manipulate the thing at kind of a weird angle to get it to go through. Then we'll go through and plug in our wires, and then we should be able to go ahead and push it onto the car. All right. Okay, so the closest to the size that I had is this pinkish purple one. I did cut a small chunk out of the thing so that I could slide it on, because apparently the factory ones were pushed in, and I don't have a tool to push those in without tearing them up. So I just decided to make a small cut. It's in there nice and tight. So now we're going to go ahead and get the panel set up. We're going to hook this cable up first and our wires, and then we can snap this back in place. Okay, so you can see how that goes. Put it right back, clip it in, and then these 2 wires, they only go in one way, so the black one goes to the one closest to the latch, and the white one goes there. They don't fit any other way. Oops, let me get you there. So the white one goes, oops, put my finger on it, there it goes. Hard doing this upside down. So this is the white one here, and the black one goes to the closest to the latch. Now we can put the panel back in place. So just take your time. First thing you want to do is get the top part into the rubber seal. Make sure it's nice and seated. You want to make sure that the panel is in line with the holes before you start banging on it. And then as you go, I start at the top and I do work my way down 1 or 2, and then I do the other side, and just make sure the panel is stuck in there where you want it. And then it should be tight. There should be no gaps. Everything's nice and tight. So now the next part is putting the screw back into this one where it says airbag, putting the cover back on, getting the 2 screws that go in here and this one, and then we've got a screw right there, so don't forget those. All right, so now we're going to get that. We have all these, and I should have remembered which one of these 2 was the long one. That would have been my best thing. I believe the longest one goes, maybe not. That looks sort of right. All right, we'll figure out which one the long one is, and we'll come back to it. Okay, so the longest one goes in behind this sort of C-clippy looking plastic piece, and the shorter one goes in the behind the door cover piece. Alright, so screws tight, the one behind the latch is tight. I've already put the one in here and put that cover back on, and this one's tight, so now the door panel's nice and on there. So now we can put this guy on there. It doesn't matter which direction you go. Don't drop it on the ground. Okay. And don't drop it in your little cubby hole. Alright, I'm going to need both hands to snap that back into place. And then I just have two more covers. The one that covers this thing and this one. And we'll get those back on. Okay, so that's on and that one's on. This one here, you got to be real careful. So when you put this one on, you want to kind of put it on at a slight angle. You want to make sure that this top piece catches, and then once it does, then you just push in the bottom and it locks in. This one is sort of the same way. You have to work it off because it does go underneath in here, so you got to slide it back and then click it. All right, so the door panel is back together. I guess I will double check the window now that I've got it all back together. And the only other thing I got left to do is put the remaining two pads underneath here where those two screws are, and that way it'll be all buttoned up. All right, so that's pretty much it for putting that back together. It goes up and down like it's supposed to. Everything else seems to be fine. I did order the parts, the radiator intake duct thing, and a brake booster. They should all be here by the end of this week, so I can start putting that stuff back together. Radiators are kind of interesting. Depending on where you looked and what I saw, they do sell them left and right, and then I guess they sell a universal one that you just turn over and you can use it either or. Prices were $500 all the way down to $85. So I found one that was a universal left or right for $85 or $65, and with a lifetime replacement warranty on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and use that one. This one definitely is leaking. As you can't see it right now, but it is definitely leaking, so we'll go ahead and replace that one out. I ordered a used air boot or air induction boot. I'm kind of wondering about ordering up the AC condenser radiator things. They were like $70 for the pair, and with this one being damaged, the AC is not going to work, and this one is really cruddy, so thinking 2 new radiators in the front, 2 new air conditioner, get this thing charged, maybe have it all working, or at least get the parts in. That way I can decide later. But right now, with the bumper off, it's just 2 bolts on each side, disconnect the whole thing, and down the road it goes. So that's something to consider. And I was thinking about going ahead and putting the front wheels back on so I could do the rear brakes while I'm waiting, but then, like I said, the parts will be here in a couple days and I'll just do it all at once. So, and I have plenty of projects to keep me busy. I've just got a bunch of parts for this one, so get this one done hopefully this week, next week. All right, well, thanks for watching, and see you later.